This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. American booze is about to hit some store shelves once again, with profits going to local charities. Manitoba is following Nova Scotia's lead and pulling out hundreds of thousands of dollars of U.S.-made alcohol it shelved months ago in protest of Trump's tariffs. And while the province says it's sticking to its U.S. booze buying ban, as CBC's Rosanna Hempel reports, some people say they are too.
You haven't been able to buy American alcohol in Manitoba liquor marts in 10 months, but some of that booze will be back on sale this month, with proceeds going to local charities.
We're looking at $1 million worth of product.
Glenn Simard is the minister responsible for Manitoba liquor and lotteries. He says it can sell products from the United States until Christmas Eve. Beginning Monday, businesses and private retailers, including restaurants, specialty wine stores, and vendors, can start ordering stockpiled American alcohol. On Wednesday, that shopping will open up to the public at 12 liquor marts across the province. Profits totaling up to $500,000 will support organizations across Manitoba. Shauna Bell with the Christmas Cheer Board in Winnipeg says it could help them meet record need.
I cannot believe what an early Christmas gift that is and just how incredible that's going to be, helping us get more food and toys into the hands of families and individuals here in Winnipeg.
Some provinces banned American booze sales after U.S. President Donald Trump imposed a 25% tariff on many Canadian goods. Manitoba is now following Nova Scotia's lead, which began selling stockpiled American liquor earlier this week. Jeff Bragg says he'll look for it on the shelves.
Well, if American booze comes back, yes, I love my bourbon.
Other Manitobans are also glad the sales will support charities, but they won't be hauling any American bottles to the till anytime soon.
I like that it's going to charity, that's great, but have you seen the U.S.? It's a dumpster fire. I don't want to support it at all.
If it's booze that's already here, if the revenue goes to charity, I say let's do it. As long as it's not new stuff coming into the country.
The Premier says this province won't be ordering new stock. Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries has said it has about $3.4 million worth of booze from the U.S. in storage. No word on what will happen to anything left over. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Would you snitch on your fellow Winnipegger? Well, the Parking Authority hopes so. It's looking into having people tattletale on parking violators in order to ticket rule breakers. The CBC's Felicia Adam has more.
What if when you saw a vehicle illegally parked, you could pull out your phone and snap a photo to report the driver? Well, it's an idea the Winnipeg Parking Authority is looking into, leaving some with mixed reactions.
Seems kind of mean-spirited. If it was, blocking an accessible doorway or entrance for someone, I could totally see that working well. But if it's just, they didn't leave me enough space or whatever, then, these things happen. If it's inconveniencing me, maybe, but I wouldn't go as far as to do it immediately. If I start seeing it as a big problem, then yeah, I might take that action.
It's not gonna work, no. Who's gonna take a picture, stop and take a picture for the city with, give description for the car, license number, blah, blah, blah,
Depending on the situation, if it's dangerous or if I think it's interfering in other people's life, then I would do it. If it's in the middle of the road and then it's blocking someone else, then I would do that. But if it's on the side and it's not, then I might not do that.
Winnipeg's Parking Authority says people can already send in photos, but as of right now, an enforcement officer has to investigate before a ticket is sent to a driver. This new system would mean tickets would be given based on the photos alone.
I think it might actually be very, very disastrous.
Councillor Janice Lukes is the chair of the Public Works Committee. She's all in for enforcing parking rules, but this type of approach is concerning.
People don't like receiving tickets, and in the past when officers have been issuing them or commissionaires have been issuing them, there has been confrontations, and I don't think the average citizen should be dealing with that.
Winnipeg's Parking Authority will pitch the idea to the committee on December 8th. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Winnipeg outreach team says it's housed more than 24 people from encampments since the city put its bylaw ban in place, with no help from the city itself. As encampments are being cleared out by city workers, the people living there say they aren't being offered housing. Instead, they've been turning to St. Boniface street links to fill the gap. CBC's Mike Arsenault has that story.
This time last week, Gordon was living in an encampment near the Louise Bridge. Now, with help from St. Boniface street links, he's got a roof over his head. Earlier this year, his apartment burned down and he couldn't find an affordable place to live.
So I just kind of floated around friends' places, couches, and then you start feeling like a burden, so you just start finding your own way out there.
The city's new encampment bylaws ban encampments from being in certain places, including near schools, daycares, and playgrounds. Gordon says he knew encampments were being taken down, but he didn't know when and wasn't offered housing.
And that's all they offered me, was just to be put on a list. As for that, was the only sort of help, I guess you could say, I got.
St. Boniface street links house more than 30 people through the private housing sector since the city implemented the bylaw.
Are you housed?
Michelle Wesley says people in encampments are confused about the bylaw and aren't being given many options.
I've asked them, well, has anybody offered you housing? Who's been there to visit you? Well, nobody's really been there. And no, we haven't been offered housing. And I said, not ever. And no, we've been in that encampment for 2.5 years.
Wesley says some people don't even have income assistance and need more support before they can transition into housing. The encampment near the Louise Bridge is in Councillor Ross Eadie's ward. He says the city and their outreach partner are having trouble finding housing for people.
Bylaw enforcement, that side, well, you could say it's working, but what isn't working is those human beings. They are human beings and they need housing.
Edie wants to turn the Louise Bridge space into an encampment triage that would have all the supports needed for people to transition into housing.
You move a group in, go through the whole triage, get them out, and then you do deal with the next 20 individuals.
Gordon says without housing options, the bylaw is just going to move people to the edge of the city.
So you're not really fixing anything, you're just moving from somewhere else.
Edie is putting forward a motion at City Hall next week to get the ball rolling on the triage encampment. Mike Arsenault, CBC News, Winnipeg.
This morning, there was a sunrise ceremony remembering the 14 women killed in the Montreal massacre back in 1989. The event at the legislature comes ahead of this weekend's anniversary of a gunman walking into a school and killing 14 women who were studying engineering because they were women. Their ceremony included reflection and space to honor those lost to gender-based violence and those who continue to be impacted.
As an electrical engineering graduate from the University of Manitoba, the events of December 6th resonate deeply, not only for what happened, but for what it symbolized. A direct attack on equality in education and the right of women to pursue careers in engineering and sciences.
At the end of the ceremony, 15 roses were lined up in the rotunda as the names of the victims of the massacre were read out, one for each of the women and another for victims of gender-based violence in the past year. Sioux Valley Dakota Nation's 2026 Winterfest has been canceled. Leadership says there wasn't enough time or funds to plan the 4-day January festival. Planning should have started 5 months ago, but the First Nation was caught up in a contentious election and no prep happened. Newly elected Chief Jennifer Bone says Winterfest will return in 2027. Every year, the event brings thousands of people to celebrate Indigenous culture. The festival includes hockey, volleyball, basketball tournaments for youth and adults, as well as cultural programming like a powwow, jigging, and moccasin games. All right, time now to bring in Riley. And Riley, it was actually warmer out there today and starting to feel like the holidays with a little bit of snow.
Yeah, another push of some light snow across southern Manitoba, Brittany, actually prompting a special weather statement on the Ontario side of the border. Kenora, Dryden, Fort Francis, Rainy River, Red Lake, up to 15 centimeters of snow locally, but the concern being the winds as we head through the night tonight. A bit of a gusty day and a gusty night ahead, so that could mean blowing snow, reduced visibility on highways as this low pressure system pushes eastward. So you can see that snow off into Ontario. We did see a little bit of that into the Red River Valley, into the Interlake throughout the day today as well. Along a warm front, we did get into some warmer temperatures across the south, actually popping up above the freezing mark in Melita, for example, at +1 this afternoon, -1 in Brandon. Far cry from where we were yesterday, -5 in Winnipeg this afternoon, and still looking at minus double digits into northern Manitoba. Overnight tonight, partly to mainly cloudy skies. We'll get a bit of clearing through the night, -14. Maybe a few stray flurries yet to come as we get through the morning hours tomorrow. Brittany, -12 first thing, and a bit of clearing as we get through the afternoon. Temperatures colder than this into the weekend. I'll have that coming up.
All right. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Why you could soon be paying $1,000 more for your groceries and what food is tipping the scales. That's next.
Well, you're not imagining it. As soon as the weather gets cold,
these seem to get slippery fast. On some Manitoba bridges, there are even signs to warn you.
So why do bridges ice over when it gets cold, even before it snows?
bridges are exposed to cold from all sides, whereas roads only lose heat from the surface and are insulated by the ground. It doesn't help that the materials that go into constructing most bridges, like concrete and steel, are good heat conductors. That means if there is heat, it moves through those materials to the surface of the bridge, where it's lost in the airflow around it.
It doesn't need to be snowy in order for that slip to take hold.
Even if there's some wetness on the road and it's hovering above freezing, the bridge that's exposed to the cold open air on all sides may cause the water to freeze, making it icy.
So as temperatures drop, approach bridges and overpasses with caution, so that you arrive wherever you're going safely in the winter weather.
Asbestos can be hidden in old walls and ceilings. Now, Manitoba is stepping up how the province is managing the hazard, with new rules coming for businesses and employees. For more, the CBC's Ian Fraze joins us live in the newsroom. So, Ian, what is the government planning?
Two major elements, Brittany. All workers dealing with asbestos must be trained. All companies must be certified. Manitoba is following the lead of BC. The new rules will go into effect by the summer of 2027, giving time for companies to get certified and employees trained. A union leader says some people who now handle asbestos are underqualified.
In regards to employers and people performing the work, the problem is that sometimes people will put an ad up on Kijiji, right? And then they'll go and do the work not knowing it's asbestos, right? Because they didn't have the proper training.
The government says asbestos exposure is right now the #1 cause of work-related deaths in the province, killing 6 people every year.
So, Ian, today was the last sitting day of the legislature this year, and it's been 3 weeks now since the throne speech. So what has stood out to you in this time?
Yeah, Brittany, it's how contentious it was. Insults were flying on one day in particular, the NDP calling the Tories misogynists and tofu eaters, while the PCs called Premier Wab Kinew a liar and a criminal. As for new laws, there hasn't been much, just 3 bills introduced by the government, but the NDP has signaled that at least 19 bills are coming.
You'll remember that last March, we had ministers introducing their bills one after another, one after another, one after another. So everybody can expect when we get back in March, we will be doing the same thing and introducing our amazing progressive legislation.
One of the government's 3 bills that have been introduced will criminalize threats to share nude images, even if no images are actually shared. Brittany.
All right, thank you. That's CBC's Ian Fraze. Worrying projections headline a report on the coming year's food prices. It predicts food will cost more, $990 more for the average Canadian family. The CBC's Anis Hadari has the story.
Canadians aren't imagining it. Buying meat at the grocery store keeps getting pricier.
When I'm shopping, I look, oh, okay, this chicken is on sale today. I guess I'll buy that one. Maybe try and go to Costco to stock up, fill up the freezer.
It is getting more expensive, yeah. Like if you want to buy some spaghetti or something and put some ground beef on there, it's like $3 more or something.
And new research from Dalhousie University predicts this trend will continue. Next year, meat could go up in price faster than many other foods. Overall, food prices are predicted to go up between 4% and 6% in 2026. Meat is predicted to go up by 5 to 7%. Some factors behind this include higher packaging and processing costs. And herds themselves are smaller this year, including some ranches downsizing. That's not happening at this BC ranch, but they understand why.
Older ranching families that don't have younger generation coming into that are getting out. I mean, it's the best time to get out. It's high prices for cattle right now.
And that could have a cascade effect on more than just beef.
A lot of cattle ranchers are exiting the industry, which is impacting inventory overall. So people are noticing higher prices. They're pivoting over to other sources like chicken, which is why chicken prices are also on the rise.
Vegetables could also jump between 3 and 5%. Overall, these researchers predict a family of 4 could spend up to $995 more next year on food. But remember, these predictions are just that. Last year, the same researchers estimated fruit and vegetables would go up in price, and the actual retail price went in the opposite direction. Anis Hidari, CBC News, Calgary.
All right, Riley, back in now. And Riley, I feel like for the next few days at least, it's going to feel like deja vu every time we talk to you.
Yeah.
Maybe for the next few weeks
Actually,
as we get into this.
We're looking at this weird up and down pattern just kind of holding in place. So we saw the snow, then the cold, now another round of snow, now another round of cold, then we're going to do this again next week again. So get ready.
Buckle up.
Buckle up with me too. Okay, let's take a look at satellite and radar. So in the wake of that area of low pressure pushing southward, warm front came through. That warmed us up through the afternoon hours today, but what goes up must come down again, and that's what we're looking at as we get into the weekend here. So we're left with a mainly cloudy sky, and out of some of this cloud cover tonight, there is the chance that we do get a few more flurries out of some of it, but for the most part, we are looking at a little bit of clearing as we get through the night tonight. But as we get into tomorrow, I'm watching this cold front push across the province. This is going to cool temperatures down as we get into the weekend. But along this frontal boundary could also trigger a few flurries or perhaps even some periods of light snow as we get through the day tomorrow. So I do have a chance that we do get into a few flurries, particularly early in the day for Winnipeg. But that chance is there as we get into Friday into northwestern Ontario as well. Into Saturday, high pressure starts to push southward. That is going to really cool things down as we head Saturday into Sunday. And then I'm watching another low to the west of us that will push in as we get Monday into Tuesday. So get ready for another round of this as we get into early next week. If we do get anything what's to come for the south, maybe a trace to a couple of centimeters, if that. For northern Manitoba, where that low will push across tomorrow, though, I am looking at a pretty broad area of 2 to 4 centimeters even as we get through the day tomorrow, before we start to see the tapering off in northeastern Manitoba by the evening hours into the early part of Saturday. So in behind all of this, we do get back into another pocket of some very cold air by the time we get into Saturday. This is going to last into Sunday before we see a bit of a bump in temperatures into Monday for extreme southwestern parts of the province. But generally speaking, we stay in this very cold pattern as we get through the next several days here and even into the weekend. I'll show in your long range in just a moment here. We are looking at temperatures for overnight lows close to the minus 25 mark for parts of southern Manitoba. So as we get into the afternoon tomorrow, you'll notice things bit cooler than they were today. Minus 10 for Winnipeg, minus 12s, minus 13s through western parts of the province. And you can start to see where we're getting another pocket of cold air start to push a little bit further south. Minus 20 in Lynn Lake by the afternoon and looking at minus 22 in both Churchill and Tuduli Lake. Okay, your long range forecast. This is a real good look at that up and down. So minus 10 tomorrow. Chance we get into some flurries, a bit breezy through the afternoon. Back into sunshine Saturday into Sunday. Highs around minus 17 through the weekend, and then we're looking at temperatures bumping back up again, Brittany, as we get into early next week. Minus 9 for Monday, minus 12 for Tuesday, but then that next clipper pushes through.
All right, thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
And here are some shots of a snowy exchange district as we head to break. We've got more to come straight ahead. Stay with us. Some cabinet ministers addressed the Assembly of First Nations on Thursday, but Energy Minister Tim Hodgson didn't. His name was taken off the main agenda. Hodgson is helping to advance the federal government's Major Projects Initiative, which has come under fire from some Indigenous leaders. Olivia Stefanovich reports.
The government has made billions of dollars off.
Taken off the main agenda, the Natural Resources Minister tried to smooth over relations with First Nations on the sidelines.
This is about ongoing dialogue. This is about a time to come together and work together.
Tim Hodgson met for more than an hour with chiefs from British Columbia, including members of the coastal First Nations for the first time.
We expect to be respected with any plans for our area.
Who made it clear to the minister they don't want a new oil pipeline from Alberta to the West Coast.
It's quite simply, his engagement with coastal First Nations and First Nations in British Columbia is, if I was going to grade it, it's an F.
First Nations will be, and Indigenous peoples will be at the table.
Hodgson said there's a lot of what he called misinformation about the agreement Ottawa struck with Alberta, prioritizing the potential project.
There is no pipeline today. What we've said is if a proponent comes forward, and they have a route, because there is no route today, then there will be discussions, and then people have a right to say what they believe.
I think they're withholding information. I think they actually have more information about a prospective proponent.
First Nations say they left the meeting without feeling any reassurance.
What he didn't answer is that what will happen if some First Nations say yes, like Alberta First Nations, for instance, and BC First Nations say no, will you force the project on us? And he just sort of stepped around it and sort of said, well, that's a premature question.
So do you think you had to change your approach to First Nations?
We are not perfect. We are trying really hard. I'll be the first to say we are not perfect. We are engaging. We believe, and this government believes, that First Nations need to be a part of any projects that get done.
Hodgson committed to meeting with BC chiefs again in their communities. The Prime Minister is also arranging a visit with coastal First Nations. So far, no dates have been set. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
Prime Minister Mark Carney will meet briefly with Donald Trump Friday on the sidelines of the FIFA World Cup draw in Washington. Word of the meeting comes as hearings are happening about whether to renew the Canada-US-Mexico agreement or CUSMA trade deal as it's known. Katie Nicholson has the details.
These hearings are playing out against a backdrop of the U.S. president floating the idea yesterday that the U.S. may walk away from CUSMA. A sentiment also echoed by his trade representative, Jamieson Greer, who suggested the U.S. could exit the deal. Of course, this is a deal Donald Trump brokered during his first administration. And the message so far from the largely American groups speaking at these hearings is that this deal is actually a good thing. Here's what Kevin Brady with the Coalition for North American Trade had to say about what might happen if CUSMA ceased to be.
I think it'd be an economic catastrophe for all three countries, including the United States, because of the relationship we have. It is the most consequential trade agreement on the planet.
We've also heard from some Canadians during these hearings about those comments. Goldie Hyder is with the Business Council of Canada.
It's possible, and it's also possible the Toronto Maple Leafs might win a Stanley Cup one year, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen anytime soon. I think it's classic negotiation tactics, and I think we should be careful to separate all the noise from where things are actually going. The fact that I'm here, along with colleagues from Canada, US, and Mexico, speaking to the review and renewal of the USMCA in a process that's commenced by them, by the government, for over 270 days, tells me that they're very serious about the review and renewal.
Crucially today, the steel and automotive sector stakeholders weighed in. The Canadian steel industry, of course, hit by those Section 232 tariffs. Could those tariffs be a negotiating point? Here's what the U.S. Steel Manufacturers Association says about that.
We believe that the 232 tariffs are to protect the American steel industry, and so we would like to see those in place, but we do support a strong USMCA, and so part of this is going to be the negotiation.
American steel stakeholders added another thing to their CUSMA wish list, that Canada and Mexico bring their foreign steel trade practices in line with that of the U.S. Just one wish from one of many sectors testifying here today ahead of that big joint review of CUSMA in July. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
Horrific new details are being revealed about the systematic torture and murder of Syrians by former President Bashar al-Assad's regime. It comes from Syrian intelligence records obtained by a German broadcaster. They were shared with the International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, which includes CBC News. Margaret Evans reports from London, but first, a warning. Her story contains disturbing images.
The brutal secrets of Bashar al-Assad's killing machine have long festered in the dark. Occasional glimpses smuggled out of prisons turned death camps. A year after the former Syrian president was forced from power, they're still being unearthed. The latest, a catalogue of deaths shared with a German broadcaster. Photos of more than 10,000 bodies, most too gruesome to show. We've blurred these images of some detainees in Assad's vast network of prisons. They originated with a Syrian military officer in charge of preserving evidence or withholding his identity for his security. How we typically photograph the body is we take 3 pictures, he's saying. A long image, a frontal image, and a bust. These are the legal parameters. That documentation now offers hope to at least some of the Syrians still hunting for news of more than 180,000 people the dictatorship is believed to have disappeared. This was Sednaya prison, just days after Assad fled Syria. We were there as people flocked to it and other prisons, hoping for a trace of someone they loved and taking in the reality of what they must have endured.
The case building process is extremely easy if you have the primary source materials, because everything was documented to the nth degree.
Canadian war crimes investigator Bill Wiley and his team have collected more than 1 million pages of evidence against Assad, smuggled out of Syria during the war and stored in a secret location for security reasons. He says the path to accountability is still a long one.
So keep in mind that 70,000 pages, or even the 1.3 million that we extracted from Syria during the war is, in fact, singly and together a drop in the bucket compared to what's sitting unprocessed now in Syria.
Much of it is confirmation of what the world already knew about the Assad regime and its horrors. But it's also a reminder that there is still much more to be done. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
More than 6 years after a former Russian spy and his daughter were poisoned, a UK inquiry has concluded that Russian President Vladimir Putin was responsible for the nerve agent attack. The CBC's Chris Brown has the details.
The findings of the British inquiry that concluded Russian assassins used Novichok nerve agent that ultimately killed an unsuspecting Don Sturgis is another reminder that long before his invasion of Ukraine, Vladimir Putin was already attacking Europe.
I've concluded that the operation to assassinate Sergei Skripal must have been authorized at the highest level, indeed by President Putin.
The movements of the Russian agents who in 2018 came to kill Skripal, a retired Russian double agent, were retraced from Moscow to Salisbury, England. Both Skripal and his visiting daughter Yulia touched a door handle smeared with the toxin and barely survived. Months later, Don Sturgis handled the discarded fake perfume bottle that contained the Novichok, and she was killed.
We can have Dawn back now. She's been public for 7 years. We can finally put her to peace.
Moral responsibility lies with Putin, and it's further evidence of the shocking and reckless hostile activity on UK soil.
The Novichok attacks form part of a pattern of ongoing and escalating Russian hybrid warfare against Europe, including the suspected cutting of undersea cables, sabotaging railways, and allegedly using drones to shut down major European airports. Ukraine's president has repeatedly warned that Putin is preparing for much bigger attacks.
He will try to find weak places in Europe, in NATO countries. He will try to do it.
Russia's government has always denied it poisoned anybody, and there were more denials Thursday. Britain's response now, as in 2018, was to hit Russia's spy agency with sanctions, which the Kremlin says are meaningless. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
The Olympic flame has officially started its journey to Italy for the Milano Cortina Winter Games. The torch was formally handed over to the host nation during a ceremony in Athens. The Italian leg of the torch relay will start in Rome on December 6th. 10,000 people will take turns carrying it on a 1,200-kilometer trip over 63 days. The torch will travel through 60 Italian cities. It will also be used to light the Olympic cauldron at the opening ceremony in February. Coming up, could a shingles vaccine be a powerful defense against dementia? What a new study suggests ahead. Research has already shown the shingles vaccine can lower the risk of dementia. Now those who are already diagnosed might also have a reason to cheer. The CBC's Christine Burak has more.
First, scientists said the shingles shot could cut dementia risk. Now they say it could do even more.
In people who have established dementia, it prevents progression or slows progression of the disease, which is truly a remarkable finding.
The newly published paper on the effect of shingles vaccination reports researchers analyzed health records of more than 200,000 people aged 79 and 80 in Wales. Those born before a specific cutoff date were offered a free shingles vaccine, while those born just days later were not. While observational, scientists compared these two nearly identical groups, one vaccinated, one not. Findings suggest the shingles vaccine not only reduced the risk of developing dementia, but also slowed disease progression and ultimately lowered the risk of dying from dementia.
I think there will be further studies that are needed in order to making sure that this particular observation, this relationship, is it truly causal or not.
It's also not clear why it might be protective, but doctors do have some ideas.
The first is that it is directly related to the virus that causes chickenpox and shingles.
Shingles is a painful rash caused by reactivation of the chickenpox virus. Preventing this reactivation may reduce brain inflammation and lower dementia risk.
I started to see signs and symptoms when I was quite young.
Phyllis Fuhrer was 48. When we met her nearly a decade ago, she was working to maintain her focus, attention, and memory. Now 66, she hopes the vaccine has helped her.
This study is so hopeful to me because you know what? With my grandmother and my mother having it, now I have it, I worry about my kids. And if this vaccine could prevent or, slow down for my kids, because chances are they're going to get it, wouldn't that be amazing?
To keep your brain healthy, doctors often recommend exercise, a hearing test, and staying social. Some say they'll now add shingles vaccine to that list. Christine Burak, CBC News, Toronto.
Riley's back in now. And Riley, I have to point out, and I hope you don't mind, but it is so on brand. Riley has a new tie on tonight, and it's got snowflakes on it, and I just love it.
And they're glittery.
And they're glittery.
And they shimmer.
They've got a little frosting on tonight.
Yeah.
So that's what we'll say.
Tis the season.
Tis the season.
Had to pull out some of the more festive ones.
Well, yeah, because it's snowing outside,
Yeah.
so we're going to have a little snowflake in the studio.
Snow outside means a good time to catnap. That's where I'm going with this. The catnapping forecast, because in behind this, we're getting into some really cold air, and that I think will have many of us longing to stay inside as we get into the weekend here. So how about we take a look at Cowboy, who clearly will stop, drop, and sleep no matter the surface. Thank you, Shelley, for sending this picture in. Please keep sending your pets to talkback@cbc.ca. No matter the weather, we'll get them on. We're looking at, I think, a bit of a brighter afternoon tomorrow, particularly through the late afternoon in Winnipeg. Winds do start to back off as we get through the day tomorrow, but then we'll start to see things picking up again even by the time we get into the evening. A partly cloudy sky by the time we get into the evening, and -12 in Winnipeg. All right, thought I'd take a look at where our snowpack is. And keep in mind, this is meant as more of a guide because this is forecast modeling. This is not real-time data that we're looking at here, but generally speaking, we've got a pretty good snowpack into far northern parts of the province where we have seen some heavy snow to the tune of even up to 15 to 30 centimeters in some locations. Further south, those couple of clippers that have gone through this week have really helped to kind of put a little bit of oomph into the winter weather here in southern Manitoba, traced to even up to 7 or 8 centimeters in some parts of southern Manitoba, particularly into those higher elevations. So we're sitting pretty good for now. Definitely could use more precipitation, though, as we head into the winter months ahead of spring for sure. So looking at temperatures, big picture here. Just comparing Edmonton and Calgary, 2 and 4 degrees, to Churchill at -26, below seasonal right through southern Ontario. Parts of the Maritimes dealing with a bit of a nor'easter and some warmth closer to that seasonal mark into western on the west coast for Vancouver and Victoria, both around 7 degrees through the afternoon. Overnight temperatures for the south tonight, looking at another 5 centimeters potentially coming into Dryden, 2 to 4 for Fort Frances and Kenora, another 2 to 4 coming through Lynn Lake, Thompson. Chance we could see a bit of accumulation into parts of northern Manitoba as well. That is off into Ontario by the time we get into the day tomorrow, but temperatures in the wake of this falling through Flin Flon, the Pas, OCN, looking at things dropping to minus 19 by the afternoon. We'll get into a bit of sunshine by the late afternoon. And then as this cold front pushes through, we do get a chance of flurries out of some of this as well, but temperatures hanging on close to around the minus 10 mark as we get through the afternoon. And Brittany, by the time we get to the later part of the day, we should start to see a bit more sunshine.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
One Manitoba city is taking stopping theft and vandalism into its own hands. Steinbach has hired a private security team after housing developments under construction kept being targeted by thieves. Brian Brunel is the owner of Steinbach Security Services and joins me now. Thanks for being here, Brian.
Thanks, Brittany. Thanks for having me on.
So, Brian, take us a bit through what your team does each day.
Well, our primary focus is to actually deter construction site thefts, and we all know that they've been on the rise for copper and panels, copper wiring, aluminum coils are now another factor that's being hit. So our developers here in the city of Steinbach had a lot of concerns, and they approached our city council, and away this project went. And what we offer is varied patrols, like random patrols. We're not, able to be picked out so easily. We have 2 different units out there on the street every night, again at random times. And then we also throw in some unmarked vehicles also, just to make sure that we're catching other things that maybe our fully deckled security units aren't picking up on.
So it's been a while since your patrol started. What have you noticed in the community so far? Have you guys been able to deter some of this theft?
Well, our patrol started on July 2nd of this year. And since that time, we know for a fact that we've eliminated or stopped at least 22 construction site thefts. We've also come across during our patrols where some of the people are actually burning down the copper wiring, and we've actually had to put out some of those fires even before calling in the fire department. Some of my staff are actually trained firefighters, and so it's kind of limiting an actual call. But if there's a large amount of copper, then the fire department here is, from my understanding, is actually seizing that copper.
Wow, so you guys are able to actually stop things in progress. So, Brian, this isn't the first time a community has done this. You did this in the RM of Hanover before. Can you share some of the results that you saw when your team was working there?
Yeah, we're definitely not reinventing the wheel here. It's we did this back approximately 10 years ago for one of the biggest municipalities in the province, which is the RM of Hanover, a small community just a few minutes outside of Steinbach. And back in the day, a councillor there and a local urban district councillor came up with the idea that there was too much crime, and they came up with the idea to hire us. And we came in and we did it for over a couple years, and we basically eliminated probably 90% of the crime. At that time, the municipality said, well, you know what, you guys have done a great job. We're gonna cancel the services now. And it wasn't long after, maybe a week or two, I think the Co-op gas station had an armed robbery. The vehicle thefts increased again, came back. Residential break-ins came back. So, it was very successful back in that time. So the only difference between that and the city of Steinbach is that construction sites are paramount. That's one of our main focuses. And again, we're patrolling residential streets when we get the opportunities, and we're patrolling city-owned properties as well.
And Brian, you're a former police officer who worked in St. Anne, which is not far from Steinbach, so you do have a lot of experience. Do you see this taking jobs that police should be doing, or do you guys really work in tandem?
We have an excellent working relationship with the RCMP, and again, I've got 37 years law enforcement experience. I started off as a security guard and worked my way up. Again, the RCMP, they're very supportive of us, and they know that we're trying to give them a breath. They need to catch their breath, and they have better things to do. I think from their own admission, they love this program. It's giving them the opportunity to get to actual real police work instead of just patrolling around.
And real quick, you said when you guys left the RM of Hanover, crime started to come back. So is this the long-term solution?
Well, I think our city council has already kind of addressed that, and they've already approved us for all of 2026 and maybe more future considerations. In my opinion, even if the RCMP were up to full staff, I don't think you're going to see much of a difference. The crime has just risen that much in all areas, not just in Steinbach, but everywhere. So the more that we can work together and keep the costs down, and I think that's what private security does. Private security can be used in many phases. We could be doing the job over at the border, instead of having conservation officers and RCMP officers on overtime. We're equipped with snowmobiles, side-by-sides, fully decked out units. Our people are very highly trained. We don't hire just a regular security guard in this company.
Brian, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you again.
Still ahead, how many Christmas trees can you fit in a house? We'll have the answer after the break. Plus, Riley will have a last look at the forecast. The CPKC holiday train rolled into Winnipeg Wednesday night. The train, decked out in holiday lights, is traveling across the country raising funds to support food banks. The rail cars transform into stages for free live concerts. Attendees can make donations of either food or money. The train will be making stops throughout western Manitoba on Friday before it continues west.
All right, and if you're planning on heading out to the holiday train in Westman tomorrow, here's a quick peek at the forecast for that. Bundle up because we are looking at things perhaps on the chilly side and a little bit breezy at times. So maybe a few flurries in Portage-la Prairie in the morning, -9, -11 by the time it reaches Neepawa. -13 by the time we get to that stop in Minnedosa and into the evening hours. That's when we see that cold front pushing through, and we'll see temperatures really dropping as we head into the day on Saturday here. So -10 tomorrow in Winnipeg. Chance we could see some flurries into the morning, maybe stretching into the early afternoon. Then we're in the deep freeze. Saturday, Sunday, temperatures around -17, breezy into Monday. This is when I'm watching another system that'll push through as we get into the early part of next week. Maybe a few flurries lingering into Tuesday, and then we are dropping below seasonal again as we continue this roller coaster ride toward the middle of next week. Well, when it comes to decorating for the holidays, is less really more, or is the time to go all out no better than the present?
More is more. For anyone who thinks they might go a little overboard decorating for the holidays, here's something to make you feel better.
Okay, so this house in Germany has been decorated with a record 621 indoor Christmas trees. They are everywhere, including in the bathroom.
There are many other festive touches as well. The Santa on the bed might be enough to keep guests from coming to visit, though.
The couple behind all of this are no strangers to setting this particular record. They have done it on 6 previous occasions.
Okay, I'm a more is more when it comes to the holidays. You know me, I
Yes.
love Christmas.
Our corner is decorated.
We have Christmas corner here. That might be a little bit much,
Yeah.
but I do love a Christmas tree.
I could do without the Santa.
Okay.
I could do without
We
that
could ditch
Santa.
the Santa, but I'll take the 600 trees.
Deal.
Send us your decor. We'd love to see it.
Please send them in.
Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good night.